Stories of Great Christians. From its radio studios in Chicago, the Moody Bible Institute greets its friends everywhere with Chapter 10 of Francis Asbury, the transcribed story of the Circuit Riders. Francis Asbury had begun his work in America, but soon after his arrival, he noted certain attitudes and actions of which he violently disapproved. He had been schooled theologically under the teaching of the Wesleys and had seen the practical aspects of Methodist organization in action throughout the British Isles. In America, only rarely did he find even the circuit system of preaching set up, and he was even more disappointed with the evident lack of discipline as set forth by the Wesleys. Asbury felt that the opportunity in America for preaching the gospel was unprecedented, and but was hindered by a lack of proper concern for the lost and a proper method for reaching them. He had no great arguments for this position yet. He was only 26 years old, but at this point in his life, only a few months after he had arrived in the colonies, John Wesley appointed Francis Asbury General Assistant in America.
Why, Francis Asbury, come in.
I've had quite a time finding you, Mr. Boardman.
Well, I have been moving about, you know.
I went to New York, heard you'd left for Philadelphia.
Really? Strange we didn't meet, isn't it?
And when I got to Philadelphia, I learned that you'd left for New Jersey.
Well, at least we finally found each other. Have you been busy?
Well, yes. It's been mostly travel this past week. How do you like Princeton?
I've found the people most receptive here. I think it would be wise to add Princeton to our Philadelphia circuit.
It's quite large already.
Yes, but one more appointment shouldn't hurt the work.
I saw Richard Wright in New York, Mr. Boardman.
Yes? How is he?
I'm not too happy with his methods. He's relaxed the discipline tremendously.
The boy's easily flattered.
Yes, and I think he's being spoiled by gifts.
I must talk with him. I'm thinking seriously of sending him south. But, why have you come to see me?
I received this letter, which I thought you ought to see as soon as possible. It's from John Wesley.
Oh, indeed. Pardon me.
Of course. It concerns us both, you see.
So I see. It's brief enough, isn't it?
I'm sorry, Mr. Boardman.
Oh, don't be sorry, lad. It's good news for me. Mr. Wesley must know what he's doing. After all, you've seen him more recently than I have, and you're more familiar with his latest methods. Indeed, I'm quite happy to be a helper once again. I never was much of a leader, I'm afraid. I never liked to be the one to give orders.
Well, I don't either.
Some people are just more able to lead and direct, and I think you're one of them. Here's my hand, Mr. Asbury. I wish you every success.
Welcome again to Staten Island, Mr. Asbury.
Thank you, Mr. Van Pelt. I've come to say goodbye for a while, however.
You are leaving us?
Just this area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I'm going south.
Oh, how far?
I'm going as far as Maryland, and I hope to go to Virginia.
That is very beautiful country.
So I've heard. But I'm going as a preacher, of course, not a tourist.
I understand. You will be preaching for us, I hope.
Oh, of course.
Good. We have been holding services every week. We even have some neighbors come in from time to time.
Oh, that's good. I'm very happy to hear that. Does anyone come to visit you from New York?
Oh, yes, every 2 or 3 months. We are very grateful. Mr. Asbury, do you plan to return to England?
Why, no. Why do you ask?
Well, Mr. Wright visited us not too long ago and said he planned to return to England.
Is that right? Well, that's the first I've heard of it.
He said something about the tense situation.
The political situation?
Yes.
Well, that shouldn't have anything to do with his staying or leaving. Shouldn't affect any one of us. Not when we're preaching the gospel.
I'm glad you feel that way. Conditions are getting worse.
Quit pacing the floor, Richard. Sit down.
All right, I will. But, Francis, just because you're the general assistant now doesn't give you the right to call me down like this. I thought we were old friends.
We were, and we are. We came over here together, Richard, just about a year ago, and believe me, I never thought to see such a great change in any man.
Oh, stop it. What are you going to do, send me back to England?
Why, I've heard it said that you're planning that very thing yourself.
Well, if things get more tense over here, I will.
Why did you come to America, Richard? To have things easy? To avoid danger, or what?
Well, I came to preach, of course.
Then why not do that? We can't avoid the political situation, but we're not here to participate in it or to take sides. We're here for only one purpose. Surely you must believe that.
I suppose I do, but...
Richard, I'm going to the South to acquaint myself with the work. And I'd like to know that you will remain here doing your part as before.
Well, yes, I will.
You will remain on this circuit? You will adhere to Mr. Wesley's discipline, and you will preach to needy souls?
Yes, I will, Francis. I'm sorry for the way I've acted, and certainly if I contemplate any kind of a change, I'll contact you first.
Whoa there. Pardon me, ma'am. But before you go into your house, could you give me some information?
I'll try, sir. What is it?
Can you tell me if I am yet in Maryland?
You are, sir. You crossed the frontier about 4 miles back.
Well, good. I shouldn't be too far from my destination, then. I'm looking for the home of Robert Strawbridge. He's supposed to be located near this road.
Oh, I know Mr. Strawbridge's place very well. You go down this road about 2 miles, and you'll see a large farm on your right with a huge white house on it. That belongs to Dr. Warfield. He's a physician in these parts, and after you pass his house, you take the first road to your right, and Mr. Strawbridge's farm will be the second on the left.
Mr. Strawbridge, this is one of the most amazing meetings I've ever attended. 3 conversions and some 75 people crowded into a small meeting house.
The Lord has blessed us here over the years, Mr. Asbury. We're even beginning to see native-born Americans take up the torch. We have 2 of these now, Richard Owens and William Waters.
That's wonderful. And I like your little chapel.
We built it ourselves. Just a plain log cabin, nothing more.
It's the simplicity I like most of all. Well, you don't even have a pulpit.
Don't need that in Sam's Creek.
How long have you been in America, Mr. Strawbridge?
Been right here since 1766. I came over from Ireland. I'd done some itinerant preaching there after I was converted, but my purpose in coming to America was to make a better living. God changed my plans. Been preaching ever since I arrived. Seen the work grow, too. Why, when we began, we'd even have Indians break into our meetings, and sometimes they weren't very friendly.
Is this the only gospel witness in these parts?
In Frederick County, 'tis. And that brings up something I'd like to ask you, Mr. Asbury.
Yes.
We have a problem here in administering the ordinances. Mr. Bodman had given me permission to officiate.
He did?
Yes, I hope you'll feel the same way. If this work is to grow, we've just got to have the right to administer communion and baptism.
Well, I can't tell you to stop, Mr. Strawbridge. You may continue for now, but I must think over the problem, and I may have to change my mind. You know, we have no clerical right whatsoever to administer the sacraments.
Yes, I know,
We're
but...
just not ordained. Besides, we're not even a separate church, as yet anyway. We're still part of the Church of England, and it's there that we should be baptized and receive communion.
But surely being so far from an Anglican church is reason enough to take this right unto ourselves.
I don't know. I think this is going to present a great problem to us here in America. But but I don't see how we can change the rules that Mr. Wesley has set up. I'll continue for now as you have been. We'll talk about it later.
Dr. Warfield.
Yes. I want to see Mr. Asbury before he leaves.
Yes? What is your business, sir?
I resent very much the implications of your sermon today, sir.
I'm sorry. What is it you resent?
The emphasis on practice. We're not saved through what we do. I'd have you know, we're saved through our faith in Christ and that alone. And yet you told us in no uncertain terms that we haven't been keeping John Wesley's disciplines.
Well, that's true. It's quite apparent.
But what has that got to do with our faith? Tell me that. You disapprove of the dress of our women. You dislike their hats and their ornaments. Sir, religion does not consist in our wearing apparel.
You're quite right, of course, Dr. Warfield. But this is a Wesleyan society, and such a society as ours operates within a certain framework, a certain discipline which has proved most satisfactory for the purpose of presenting to the world a group of Christians who live as they believe. When we see deviation from these rules, we must call attention to them.
I just can't see it that way.
Ahoy there!
Who is it?
Just a man. Where are you heading for, friend?
Baltimore.
You'll never make it in this weather. You ever see such stupid weather? Snow, snow, snow. All the time, snow. Man can't even travel anymore.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I'll be on my way. It's getting colder, and there's no need for us to waste each other's time.
Snow, all the time, snow. I bet King George is at the bottom of this snow. Pretty good, don't you think? King George, snow. What's the matter? Ain't you got no sense of humor? You're the most unsociable critter I ever met. Yes, sir, unsocial. I can't say it a second time. Hey, what's that in your hand?
This is a Bible.
A Bible? Say, you a parson or something?
I preach the gospel wherever I can.
Then preach to me. Come on, preach to me or I'll...
You can put down that stone. I'll preach to you gladly.
You've been running a high fever, Mr. Asbury. How do you feel this morning?
A little weak. Guess I got chilled in the storm.
It's a wonder you're alive. Traveling 50 miles in a snowstorm and then preaching 3 times in one day as soon as you get to Baltimore.
Oh, I'm not complaining.
Well, you get some rest, or else you won't be able to do any more preaching at all.
Very well, Mrs. Triplett. I'm glad Mr. Strawbridge told me about you. At least I have someone to watch over me.
Didn't raise 5 sons for nothing, Mr. Asbury. Now, you get some sleep, do you hear?
And so we conclude Chapter 10 of Francis Asbury, the story of the circuit riders. We are presenting another in a transcribed series of stories of great Christians, which come to you from the radio studios of the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.